Hi there, Chris from TotallyEV, and here we're doing a dedicated audio review of the VW ID.4. If you'd like a review of the vehicle itself, do check it up on your pop-up banner or indeed down in the description below. Also down there you'll find links to our social media platforms, so if you're on Instagram or Twitter for example, we'd very much appreciate a follow. And if it goes without saying, if you do like the videos and you want to see more from the channel, definitely do subscribe and hit that bell notification. So first off, we're going to talk about the audio configuration, and here it's actually quite pleasant because the VW ID.4, unlike its smaller sibling, the ID.3, has 6 speakers as standard. Here you've got 4 speakers at the front, and yes, you do have 2 speakers at the rear. I know it seems quite trivial and silly to mention, but in the ID.3 you do not have any rear speakers in the stock level system, or at least in the Life variant. So in this respect, it means that you've got more speakers, and unfortunately there's no means of upgrading it. So unlike the ID.3, you can't go for a 6+1 system. And yes, that does also mean that you do not have a subwoofer as an option, or indeed in the stock system in the ID.4. Now for you to tailor the audio system to your preference, you can go through the 10-inch infotainment system or the 12-inch system if you have the max trim. Now here in my case, I adjusted the bass by 2 notches. In other words, I raised it by 2 notches. I left the mids at 0 and increased the treble by 1 notch. Of course, it depends in terms of your overall system setup, in terms of what you listen to, but that's just my settings and that's what I found to be most agreeable to my ears. Now to give you a little bit of a taster as to how the system performs, I'm going to place the camera and the microphone in 4 separate locations, and the song we're going to be using is from Priya J. If you're interested in listening to a song or indeed subscribing to a channel, do check it out in the description below.
Then learn how to fly. It's the only way I know how to play this game to success. I'm not quite sussed yet. When I reach the brink, don't stop to think. I always sing, and now the thing is my imagination is constantly racing 1,000 miles ahead. I'm living in my own mind, but it's floating, I'm always hoping. But when I reach the brink, don't stop to think. I always sing, and
Now with that sound demo out of the way, let's get onto my subjective opinion. And first off, let's talk about that sub-bass response. Unfortunately, it is cut short because, well, there is no subwoofer to deliver those low-end rumble, and it's a shame that the ID.4 does not have an option to add a subwoofer, very much like the ID.3, so audiophiles might be a little bit disappointed in this domain. As for the mid-bass, however, it's pretty punchy and pronounced, be it if you're sitting at the front or at the rear of the cabin. The mid to full-range drivers found within the doors will deliver a nice low-end grunt. While it's a tad bit uncontrolled, it is still very much punchy and will definitely bring a lot of life to your music, specifically if you're listening to, let's say, R&B or pop music. Now as for the mids, they're a little bit recessed and a little bit pushed back, but it's actually not too bad for a stock system. I do feel that you can EQ it via the infotainment system, but when you do EQ it even past 1 notch, you'll feel a little sense of artificial sound coming across. So for example, in Priya's track, her vocals become a little bit skewed and just don't come out as the artist would intend them to be. But of course your mileage may vary depending on terms of your music you listen to, and of course your own hearing range. As for the highs, they extend pretty well, although they do tail off at the very top end, and that's because there's not too many drivers in the vehicle and therefore dedicated tweeters, but still in this respect it will give you plenty of excitement, specifically if you tailor it by 1 or 2 notches on the treble EQ. Now what took me by surprise, however, is the overall soundstage. Now in comparison to the ID.3, the ID.4 completely trumps it, and of course here I'm comparing the stock 4+1 system on the ID.3 in comparison to the 6-speaker setup that you have in the ID.4. Here at the front of the cabin you do get a good sense of width and depth, and there is music that's fulfilled at the rear of the cabin as well, which gives you a little bit more of a fully immersive sound. And while there's no surround sound option for you to play around with, or some clever technology to give you a little bit more of immersion, I still do feel that Volkswagen have achieved a pretty good feat over here. As for instrument separation, it could be a little bit improved, and specifically at the rear of the cabin where you're only treated to 2 drivers, so 1 driver per door, what you'll find over here is the instrument separation does take a hit. But still, on the whole, for a stock system, it's not too bad. So you might be able to see where I'm going with the verdict. I'm pretty impressed with the overall sound system that's found within the ID.4. Now don't get me wrong, this is a stock system. It's not going to compete with some more premium systems out there, specifically ones which have a dedicated subwoofer or just more drivers found within the cabin. But as far as stock systems go, and specifically in comparison to its smaller sibling, the ID.3, the ID.4 does a very good job, and as a result gets TotallyEV's Value Award. But I'll just be intrigued to hear your thoughts on the system itself, or indeed other vehicles out there on the market. Do let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe, and hit that bell notification if you want to see more from the channel, and of course favourite and share if you feel that this video will be helpful to a family and friend making an informed purchasing decision. Alright, I've been Chris from TotallyEV. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.